Hi everyone, welcome to my channel on which I teach A Course in Miracles, basically, right? And maybe as many of you know, maybe you're unfamiliar with A Course in Miracles. The Course in Miracles is a course in awakening, correct? It's a course in mind training. It's a course in changing your mind about everything and everyone. So on this channel, I teach A Course in Miracles, the lessons. We'll look at some lines from the text as well. But basically, it's the application of the lessons to the change of your mind, right? And today's lesson, and we're starting on lesson 44, which is God is the light in which I see. I'm just reading here from my iPad. God is the light in which I see, right? And it's so beautiful because the idea is that unless you're using the light of God to see, you're not seeing anything, right? Like he so beautifully says, he says, you see a lot of separate things about you, which means that you're not seeing it all. That's one of the earlier lessons. Basically, he says, and he's now, that's not seeing, that's called image making. He calls it image making. You're projecting everything from you, but you're not actually seeing anything at all. If you would truly see it as it is, right, which is behind the form, right, you would see that everything is part of you and everything is one with you, right? Because your vision, or your seeing, I should say, stops at the outside of an object, you all think those are separate things from you. Right? Well, the beautiful lesson, it says here, in order to see, you must recognize that light is within, not without. Right? The light of God, the light of truth, the light of the world, which is what you are, is inside of you. It's not outside of you. Huh? You do not see outside yourself, nor is the equipment for seeing outside of you. You don't see outside yourself. He says you're projecting from you, right? You're projecting everything from you, and you see a world out there. But one of the core thoughts, right, of A Course in Miracles is there is no world, right? The world you see has nothing to do with reality. It is of your own making, right? And it does not exist. The world is a projection of your mind. Right, so the lesson for today is an invitation to truly seeing, right? An invitation to truly letting go of the idea that that the world that you see has any reality. And he says the idea for today is a particularly difficult form for the undisciplined mind and represents a major goal of mind training, right? To learn to see, to go beyond what seems to be obvious, right? To open your mind to new ideas, right? To be willing to admit that you don't know anything, right? Because that's where learning begins. Of Course in Miracles, somewhere is the undoing of the way that you think now and see now by acknowledging that truly you don't really know anything, right? And it's that willingness to open your mind to true learning, right? That brings about that change in thinking. And that change in thinking then becomes happiness, right? You become happy, you become free, right? And you start to remember who you are. It's like you're vacating a place within your mind that allows the memory of God to resurface. Right? That's true learning. That's true thinking. Thinking is thinking with the universe, right? Not these separate thoughts that you have separate from God. That's not thinking. I love it. He says somewhere in these early lessons, when you do that, your mind is actually blank. He says your mind is actually blank. You think you're thinking, but you're not really thinking. Thinking is thinking with God. Hmm? Great. This is a great lesson. Read it if you can. It says, your mind is not no longer wholly untrained. You're quite ready to learn the exercise for today. Yeah. And he says, but you may found that you have some strong resistance, and the reason is this, he says. The reasons the reason that you may have strong resistance is that you're asked to leave your thought system behind. Your ideas, your convictions, your beliefs, all of that, in order to learn, you're going to have to leave behind. so be it, right? Because they've never served you well, have they? Right? You've always been searching for happiness and for peace, for rest, for healing, and none of that serves you, right? You've never found it, right? Until what? Until you're willing to let go of your old thought system. That's the invitation. But that may encounter some resistance in you, right? So be it, right? Stand there for a moment. Ask for help. Ask for that correction, right? Because this is a course in miracles. It's a course in that change, right? That correction. A miracle is a correction, right? In your thinking, right? It's amazing. It says, if you can stand aside from the ego by ever so little, you'll have no difficulty in recognizing that its opposition and its fears are meaningless, right? Your resistance, your opposition, your fears, your angers, your worries, your concerns are all meaningless in truth. But they have to do with your self-image, right? How you feel about yourself, how you think, right? You identify with that separate self. Somewhere he says in the Course in Miracles, your sole problem is separation. What's the solution? You're not separate. You're not separate from God. It's impossible to be separate from God. God is with you at all times. In every place, in every circumstance, He's with you. But in order to know that, right, some correction needs to take place, right? Some cleaning, right? Like some cleaning up of your mind, right? Because underneath all your false thoughts is the memory of God, is the memory of who you are, right? Is the love of God, is the light of the universe. It's in your mind, it's not out there. Many of you out there have had crossover experiences in which you experienced the light for a moment, you crossed over to the other side because of some death experience or whatever. But really, truly, that is the light we're talking about, right? It makes you happy. It's loving, it's caring, it's nurturing, it's all encompassing. But for a moment, when you come back into space time, you've forgotten, right? You've forgotten. And now, right, the invitation is to remember again. Every lesson in A Course in Miracles has that memory in it, right? It has the entire possibility for that complete reversal of thought. It has in it the complete potential for remembering. So yeah, I love the workbook because, as he so clearly says in the onset of the workbook, he says, an untrained mind can accomplish nothing. You have to practice, right? You have to practice. And the lesson for today, God is the light in which I see, is a gorgeous lesson. Right? If you've never heard of A Course in Miracles, if you're completely new to this, get yourself a copy, right? Get yourself a copy. I'll post a link in underneath. Get yourself a copy and start practicing the workbook. Read the text as well. It's gorgeous, but it's the practicing that brings about that change. Beautiful. Basically, the invitation in this particular lesson is to kind of sink below all the um, bubbling and churning of thoughts that going on the surface of your mind. It says, no, there's a door underneath there, right? And when you go through it, the door is always open, right? When you sink below all those restless, distracting thoughts, there's a door, and when you go through it, that's where the rest is. So beautiful. Beautiful. It says, if you're doing the exercises correctly, you should experience some sense of relaxation and even a feeling that you're approaching, if not actually entering into light. Literally, that's what's meant with enlightenment. Right? Enlightenment is the idea that the light of the world, the light of God, the light of reality, right, is in you, and it's easily accessible by a complete change of thought, because everything is thought. See, it makes me happy teaching this. Why does it make me happy? Because teaching the truth is happy. is happiness. One of the lessons in the workbook is my happiness and my function are one. Some of you remember being given a function all the time, right? The function was given to you by God, right? And your function was to be what? Happy. To be happy. To be the light of the world. To be the reminder to your brother of what he has forgotten. So yeah, you do have a function. Your journey to space-time is not at random. You're not here for some, you know, for no purpose, so to speak. Right? No, you have a function. Right? You are the one that's benefiting from fulfilling your function. So is your brother. Why? He is you. Right? There's only one of you. Right? God has only got one son, and it's you. Well, what about my brother? What about my... He is you. Right? There's only one of you. You're not separate. Right? They're not... What are we these days on Earth? 8 billion separate souls? There seem to be, right? But they're not separate. There's only one. Right? And that's what you're learning when you're changing your mind about yourself, using these workbook lessons of A Course in Miracles. Anyway, that's the lesson for today. If you get a chance, go sit down and read it. God is the light in which I see, right? God is the light in which I see. And it's a beautiful, beautiful lesson. This is lesson 44 in your workbook. If you haven't got one, order a copy of A Course in Miracles. Sit down and do these lessons. The change that you're experiencing in the way you think as a result of doing these lessons will amaze you. As a matter of fact, that change in thinking is the opposite of the thinking of the world. That's why it's happy. That's why it will make you happy, free, and joyous, right? So I hope you like this video. Please leave any comments that you may have below in the comments, and please like this video. I'll post these videos on a regular basis as much as I can, and I'll see you the next time.